Welcome, everybody. My name is Arvin Bautista, and welcome to Comix Rant. I have not done an episode in a while, so let's just start talking about comics and drawing stuff. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the comic portion of Comix Rant. And today, I'm going to talk about a few comics that I've been reading, and they're all kind of wordless. And that's some of the things. Some of my favorite comic books are actually wordless, and they just rely on telling the story through pictures and sequences of pictures together. So anyway, one of the first books on our list is Jonna and the Unpossible Monsters by Chris Samnee and Laura Samnee. And this, I think, is pretty recent, 2 months, 3 months. And I kind of slept on it. I love Chris Samnee's work, but I will confess I'm such a jealous hater. I'm such a jealous hater because he's so good. He's so good. And I want to steal his stuff so bad. And nothing wrong with stealing, of course, as long as you earnestly try to make yourself better from it. Anyway, if there's somebody to steal from, it's definitely Chris Samnee. I love how productive he is, how much stuff he can pump out and still maintain great quality. It's both detailed and simple at the same time, and it can kind of veer both ways if you wanted to. Such a great, flexible style, perfect for comics. And next up is Hedra by Jesse Lonergan. And this one I stumbled on at the comic book shelves. And I was just flipping through some stuff, and this one came along, and literally I just looked, and this totally grabbed me. No words. Yes. Have I mentioned how much I love comics with no words? No, I love comics with no words. And then the next one is The Longest Day of the Future by Lucas Varela. And this one I read digitally off of Hoopla. And it's this library app that if you have a library card, you can borrow all sorts of stuff for free. And it's great. And apparently doing that helps the authors of the books as well. I found that out when I was reading one of Shay Fontana's Twitter tweets. And she said people that borrowed it through Hoopla, she also gets some residuals off of that. So that's cool. Anyway, I loved it so much, this book, that I bought it physically. So, hey, how about that? Anyway, so let's start with this guy, Longest Day of the Future. And you can see why I would love this if you've been following this channel. This is the style I want to steal for my comic book. It's all about stealing this episode. The Bomb Squad is like this futuristic kind of world, Art Deco-y, and simple colors. You know, as I'm saying this and I'm looking at this is like, this is it. This is what I want. And I will be stealing many things from here. So if you see some future pages, you'll probably see it. And I'm not ashamed. I stink. I'm going to steal good stuff. I'm going to steal from the good guys, you know? Anyway, so this book is about these two corporations vying for your dollars, I guess, in the future. And it's gotten so bad that it's just split into two camps, red and blue. And this, the first half of this follows the blue side. And then there's also a third factor that comes in, which is like this alien being that crash lands in the middle of it all. And he kind of is the catalyst for some of the craziness that starts happening. So right now you're seeing, as I'm flipping through this, it's all wordless. And comics, I love how panels are next to each other because you can do stuff like this. Look at that. So he's checking out this gun. All of a sudden, this is the alien gun. He misfire or something goes on and he activates it without, him being prepared, and it just shoots off this massive blast that just ricochets all over this hallway. But the way that he depicts it is that it's going through panels, and lands back at his feet right there. And it's fantastic. It's just destroying all this stuff. But I love like how your eyes just getting thrown all over the place as you follow this. Like I love that comics can do this. Movies and TV can't do this because it's just one screen that you're looking at the same time, at one time, whereas this is multiple panels next to each other. And, you know, there's all sorts of crazy things going on here. Like he gets sucked up into the suitcase, and there's this weird world inside. The colors are fantastic. Very simple. One color and the shadow, really. Sometimes it's just even flat, like, you know, like this wall. And it works so well. The storytelling is so clean. And, you know, a lot of times I'll see comics with really clean storytelling, but kind of very boring, you know, because it's just way too clean. You're always just following this one tracking shot. It's set up like a movie. But this one breaks a lot of things from the traditional storyboard rules, right? Like that laser blast I just showed you. And it just has cool stuff like this. I mean, look at that. It's a shot of the world outside his window, because he's the cleaner. He's cleaning things here. And there's the window. But he plays with it as if it's like panels that he can break up. Smart. Very cool. So let me just flip through some more of these so you can check it out. And this is on the blue side. Drinking. He made a mistake, so he drank like red side coffee. They start freaking out, and then it gets disintegrated. Of course. Why are you buying the competitor's stuff? So it gets into a lot of parody in this way. And it just goes kind of insane because it goes to a full-blown war, like a commodity war with giant robots, laser beams, getting stabbed in the heart. It's great. I won't spoil it for you. Please read it. It's awesome. And let's go to Hedra by Jesse Lonergan. This one's from Image. And, you know, you can see here that he's, in this book, he's going to play with this grid structure a lot. And, you know, you could probably hate it if you didn't like it, but I love it because it makes my brain think on how to read some of this stuff. And he does some cool things where he'll just have a line and it's movement, and boom, you know, this is like, in my brain, this is a missile, a trajectory for a missile, almost like a radar thing. Hits, explosion right in the beginning, right in the very first panel. And then he does, or first page, and then he does certain things like this. So now you see, okay, so it is a missile, right? But then there's this other arc going, so now people are firing at each other, and you see movement, boom, boom, stuff exploding, and now like it intensifies, and all these arcs are coming in, and all these bombs are exploding, you know, and he just keeps going, and then he starts blending some of these other panels, right, into the destruction of this all. It's interesting that he pulls this tractor and the farmer out of this smoke and just desolate landscape scene, just to kind of make it more like this is like the feeling you get everywhere, right? People are dying because there's skulls, right? So he's playing with iconography, and he does certain things like this too, which is awesome. So everybody gets together and they're saying, hey, we should make a rocket, explore different worlds because we're blowing up this one. And it's a sequence where they make a rocket ship, but he doesn't show you people with wrenches or like, you know, anybody doing any of that stuff. He's not doing the usual montage look. Instead, he just gives you a blueprint, and then boom, it's done. And then now story moves on. And you could have done it the other way, sure, but this is great. It's just different, right? And he shows you this line of astronauts. Here is one astronaut in the line, and they have this lottery thing going on. He gets a number 36, looks at her number. Oh, there it is, 36. It's me. And cut to her already suited up, and people are looking up here already. As this is going, we're cutting into scenes of these people looking at the ship, which is interesting. It's playing with your conception of time as we're doing this. And she gets into rocket ship, and then we have the smoke here, and then you follow it up, blast off. right? This is great. This panel is great. It's this vertical panel that just shows you. And then he starts doing all this crazy stuff. Like gets all into trajectories and orbits and shapes. And it's awesome, right? Like this is kind of like splash page of time passing and all this technical things going on, and another page that shows you as she's jumping from planet to planet, and it's breaking panels here, and in between, you know, you're seeing snippets of her collecting things and doing sciencey things. There's like a diagram of flowers as probably like how she's classifying flora and fauna, yada yada yada. And it's awesome, and you're just seeing it with just like this assault of panels. And then he starts using this line as motion of this ship, right? If you just look at this as this panel, it's just a panel with line, right? But you're also seeing it together. But you're seeing this broken up as this person, sorry, spoilers, as this person, Flying Man, is catching up to this ship. And, you know, he's using these panels as position of these two things next to each other. And inside, there's a panel of her looking out the window. And you know that it's her. It's this color. It's the same as this color. It's this panel on top of this rocket. And it's right across from this one. So you can see that what she's looking at is this guy, right? And this guy's flying alongside. And ta-da! They are looking at each other. And this grid system, for me, because it's the way I read comics, it's slowing down time for me because I'm kind of looking at each of these pieces as well as her in one go. Some people it might not be so much, but that's how I read it. And then title page, Hedra, awesome, off to a start. So anyway, he does a lot of these things that are great and focuses on certain moments within a bigger picture. And you know, there's this that she's climbing, or well, going down, right? But because you're breaking this up into pieces and you're seeing this character in different pieces of it, it's a passage of time, of constant time too, right? Because the squares are all the same shape, same size next to each other. And, you know, he's doing all sorts of this cool stuff, like, you know, walking through this thing and splash in this little thing as she's walking forward. She trips and she falls down. This character starts growing into a giant. You know, you see the radiating panels help emphasize that, and of course him getting bigger in relation to the background, and it's just great stuff. It's this kind of stuff that makes me love comics so much. Like, look at this thing. It's like some kind of crazy tunnel fight, and so he lays out his panels like a bunch of tunnels. You know, and it comes out for him really easily. He does this all throughout the book, right? Like, it's just fun. You can tell, like, there's a lot of fun going on here with this medium. She throws this knife, snaps that thing, and everything comes down, right? Anyway, let me not spoil that, because I'd like you guys to read that too. And then we've arrived at Jonna, where we had started. And this is Samnee's book. It's not completely wordless, which it's a good idea, I think, because now he doesn't have to be trapped into that one storytelling mode. But, you know, for the most part, that is what he does. Like, he sets up the scene, and the sister is calling for Jonna. There's running going on. There's no real words, sound effects maybe. And she's jumping, and, you know, still wordless for the most part. Or simple dialogue, boom. You know, and it's fun. Like, man, it's great. Look at this. Splash panel of this giant creature is awesome. Colors are fantastic. The level detail is awesome. Jumps off these broken trees, jumps up towards this monster, and oh, what's going on? Crazy things, stars. And then everybody blacks out, and it jumps to 1 year later. Whoa, so what just happened, right? So now you're like sucked up in there, and there's like some exposition going on here and setting up the scene and what the sister's doing. and what her mission is. And then it ends on that. And it is a quick read. And I think, like, you know, some people will be like, what? I paid $4 for that? Because I'm done in 5 minutes. It must not be worth it. But it's not true. This stuff is just so fantastic. Like, it's a piece of art. If you bought a poster for $5 that looked like that, yeah, that's worth it. That's 2 pages. You know, you got more pages in here, and it's telling you a story. Second issue, I bought that. I usually am one of those people that would trade weight nowadays because I'm just older and I have a lot of comics at home. But I like handing this to my daughters, like in this format that's so easy for them to hold. And I'm not precious about it. You know, this is already kind of mangled a little bit. It's great. It's already well read. And it's a good sign. For me, it's a good sign of a comic book, right? I'm kind of starting to grow out of that collector's mentality. Of course, I'll still have a pretty good mint copy of this stuff when it comes out in trade. This is the one for the sharks. It does some great stuff here. She's remembering her sister, and he's switching from the memory, or from her starting to remember to the memory, and there won't be any borders on this one, is how he designates it. And then he goes back to the actual real world, and there's panels again. Colorings are also a little different. Yeah, splash page, crazy looking monsters, fun monster designs here. So they're like mangling this one cute little monster. Still wordless as it's going on, and it's fantastic. Until she meets up with her sister, who's crazy looking and it's got a monster in her mouth. It's fun. It's very good. It's a quick read, but I mean, it's just so worth it. Because Chris Samnee is the man. And I would love to steal his stuff too. So yes, this is all about me stealing. Stealing everything. But never staying stagnant. That's me trying to justify my stealing. Anyway, so those are the books for today. Longest Day of the Future, Hedra, and Jonna. Really good reads. Not using a lot of words. Or no words. And the visual storytelling is fantastic. It's good inspiration for me as start drawing my books. And I hope it's inspiration for you. Let's move on to the drawing portion of the show. See you guys in a bit. So, okay. This is a compilation of clips that I took while drawing my Inktober pages for my superheroes, free superheroes, I guess, comic book. I think I've decided to just name it Heroes versus Robot, or Robot versus Heroes. Nothing too complicated. But anyway, so each panel, or actually these first 2 panels you're seeing here that I'm penciling and inking, were for 1 day of Inktober. And this video clip will go through all of them. So I think it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days worth of work for Inktober. And I think probably like 3 hours per group. So this first 2 panels, I think I did it in 3 hours or something like that. And now you can see me. That clip that you just saw where I have this other piece of paper come in is usually me trying to figure out the pose for that panel. And I sometimes get a little too wary of just drawing it on the page, and mentally my brain just doesn't want to mess it up. So I will take another piece of paper and draw on that. And then once I figure it out, draw it again on here. It's a mental block, and it really isn't. It's really a way for my mind to get around it. It's not actually that hard to draw whatever I was drawing. It's just I get more comfortable this way. So 4 panels in, I'm just like feathering it like crazy. It's just a lot of fun. And sometimes to my own comics detriment. um, it gets a little busy. But this last panel that I drew, okay, so it's 4 days worth of work. This last panel that I drew, I really liked. This giant fist and this little body coming out. And once I posted it onto social media, a friend of mine said, "Ooh, it's Wonderful 101." And, younger me would have been offended because, like, I copied Wonderful 101. But now that I'm older, I don't care. I totally accept all my influences from pop culture. And I loved that he drew that comparison to it, that my friend drew that comparison of that panel. Okay, so I've included clips here where it's in real time. So it's like, the time-lapse stuff is great, but I feel like it's mainly to show you, it's almost like a fancy video to show you my process. And I'm not really sure anybody really learns anything from them, especially if I'm not talking through them. But these real-time ones, while they're a lot harder to kind of set up, I mean, not a lot, it's just my iPhone on a cup off to the side. I kind of have to consciously draw on the page without turning it. And let me tell you, it kind of gets in the way of my creativity when I'm trying to do it that way. I can do it. Some people are better at it. But I love just turning the piece of paper and getting that right arc or that angle so I can hit the curve that I'm trying to ink. I mean, I can pull it off, and you'll see, like, some of these videos I do exactly that. But it's just more comfortable. Like, at the end of the day, I'm doing this stuff to relax, and I like drawing. Sometimes performing in front of a camera is not really what I want to do. I just want to draw. But then I wouldn't have any content from my YouTube channel, which has like 5 million subscribers. I'm lying. But anyway, so here, I rotated it. It's already broke my rule, and it's focused on my finger. How great is that? And, okay, so now I'm filling the speed lines, and I think I mentioned this in one of my videos already, but I find that the pull from digital, when I try to taper something on digital, is almost the opposite of what I have to do when I try to taper something with physical inks. And I'll go back in there, fill in the blacks in the same way. And looks like from this sketch I've already figured out where the darks will go. I do like working with it and trying to find where the contrast will go. Some of these panels, I think it might be to my detriment that I work on it on kind of a separate, in separate chunks. I mean, it is Inktober, and I am inking just panel by panel on a daily basis. But sometimes I don't see the whole thing. I'm just trying to keep one foot ahead of the other, in front of the other, and keep moving forward. That I'm kind of tunnel visioning, and I'll see like, okay, I got my panel done for the day. I'm done. I'm out. But I don't really sometimes see the whole page as I lay it out, because I'm just laying out. I think I was a little better in this year's Inktober, or previous year's Inktober, but this page does get pretty busy. And here's the second panel. There's something very relaxing about doing all this feathering that I enjoy. It's a good wind down for the night. And when I do get into it, I could just keep inking it for hours. And I've seen some of my older Inktober drawings, and I flipped through it. I still have them all. And I have to admit, I have improved a lot more. I like the kind of stuff I'm doing now, and the quality of line that I'm doing it now with. And here I am with my trusty felt tip nib, because this panel is like super tiny and I don't want to have to worry about trying to get these lines just right. So this is less control needed. But once that's all inked in there, see, I'm switching now to my brush, and I go back in there and start filling in the darks. And I have like another brush that where I can put broader strokes of black, but I think the ink quality, the kind of ink that's in there is different from this one that's in these ink brushes. So I kind of like filling in all my blacks with the same black ink. It's obviously not economical because I have a whole jar of black ink sitting there for spotting in giant swaths of black. But it's my OCD just looking and wanting all the tone to be the same. Most of the time when I was drawing this book, I would always try to think of how to depict certain rendering styles that, you know, we see in comic books all the time. So like metal, like what I'm doing now, I remember loving how John Byrne drew it. And I think it was him that had a pinup of Colossus, and maybe Terry Austin was inking him or something like that. And they would do this segmented banding, black banding that I still do, you know, I'm still doing right here, except now I'm just feathering everything as it breaks the segments. And I've always loved that look. I don't think Colossus shows up a lot anymore, so you don't really see this cool rendering anymore. I used to really love that character, but he's just gotten written off of the books. That's just kind of where they brought him, and now I think he's back, but he's like a bad guy in like super hip clothing. I have no problems with hip clothing, or even where they're trying to bring his story, because I guess ran out of stories for Colossus. In any case, that's it for the page. It's all done. And to wrap up, please like, subscribe, and hit your notification bell. But if you don't, that's okay too, as long as the trade-off is that you guys go ahead and draw your own comic book pages too. I think that would be a better reward for me to know that my little show has gotten you guys drawing some comics. And if you do, drop me a message and tell me where I can check it out. I would totally love to see it. See you guys next episode.